Listen up.
It's just in.
All the gossip. The Rumor Report. Gossip. With Angela Yee.
It's the Rumor Report.
The Breakfast Club.
Angela Yee be looking so disgusted. She be like, I'm trying to kiss already.
It's awkward. There's just too much tension in here. All right. Y'all good?
Yes.
This guy's crazy.
All I know is I just be trying to do my work,
Me
and
too.
then Charlamagne's like, "Have you ever had a penis that was so big?"
That's not what I, that's no, that's
He
this
did.
is all out of
He
context.
Come here
walked
and say
right in
that?
there. He walked right in here and said,
No.
you ever had a penis so big in your face that you just got to tell a guy,
That's
just
not what
leave.
happened.
Just
That's
leave.
not
I
what
said,
You
happened.
didn't say that?
I told y'all a story about a guy who caught his girl
that's not what
cheating
you
on
said.
him.
You
And when
said-
the guy, he said when the guy jumped up, his penis was down to his ankles, and he was like, "Man, just leave, man. Just get out of my house." That's what I said.
But when I'm doing work, all I heard you come in the room and say, "Have you ever had a guy whose penis so
Not
big?"
true.
You told him
That's what you said when you came in. The first time you explained it, she wasn't
What
there.
do
The
you-
second time you just said,
I'm like, all right, let me get back to work. So let's talk about Ludacris. He was talking to Ellen on the Ellen Show, and he was talking about not even knowing all the things that he had on his property. He has 22 acres of land, and he's not there a lot, and he's been finding things on his home.
So because of quarantine, this is probably the best property to quarantine at besides your house. Of course, I have like 22 acres of land. I'm so used to traveling and never being here, so I'm finally able to enjoy the fruits of my labor. I'm finding things in my home and on my property that I never even knew were there. I actually have a tennis court, if you could believe it or not. I didn't even know that this was on this property. Tree houses, saunas that I'm finding.
I believe it now.
Yeah.
And at first you said it was cat.
I thought it was
You
Cap
did.
too.
You
I
were
didn't
like,
know-
he's lying.
I
That's
know
what
who it was.
he said cat.
But Ludacris bought I know he has a huge property with a bunch of acres, so it makes sense now.
Yeah.
And shout out to Ludacris. He's definitely going to have a car in the Coachella car show in Atlanta.
That's what he remembered.
that's why,
that's what he
that's why
remembered.
he's, to the back.
First it was Cap. Now it's, I forgot he got a car in the car show.
No, but like Ludacris, I can see that happen too. Boosie is another person that he has a lot of acres. He just bought more acres that you can see. Like, damn, I didn't know that was on his property. 2 Chainz is another one that has a lot of acres. So I can see that with
Yeah,
with
in
some of those
Brooklyn,
artists.
in my brownstone, I'm finding things I never knew existed.
What did you find? I need to hear this. A mouse, cockroach, grass.
Damn, Envy, that's what you think of Brooklyn brownstones? That I've never had a mouse in my house.
Wow.
That's a
That
lie.
is awful.
That
you
is
was,
cat.
I have never had a mouse in my house.
You ain't saying nothing about them roaches though.
We have had a couple roaches. I'm not gonna lie, but I do have an exterminator that comes quarterly. Can't help it. But all I'm saying is, yes, there's things I've discovered in my brownstone. All right. Now, Ebony K Williams is talking to the Jasmine brand, and she's talking about people being really critical of her and the race conversations that she's been having on the show and the editing. Here's what she had to say about editing on Real Housewives of New York, because she's the only black woman on Real Housewives of New York ever in that franchise.
You know, I have to say, to the editor's credit, so far, it has been a very accurate depiction. They have not cut anything that I would deem essential. Now, obviously, the conversation where the next episode, we're all sitting in the circle in Ramona's and we're going through why it is unacceptable to call a black woman angry and all of that. A lot was cut from that. And some of what was cut was a conversation we had around white fragility. So, it was much more productive than the edit showed because we talked for longer.
Right, I'm sure they couldn't show all that. I actually watched that episode where she was talking about her white fragility, and they were mad at Ebony K Williams. They were having a conversation, and whenever Ebony K Williams raises her voice a little bit, she's an angry black woman. But if other people do it, it's no issue. All right, now here's what she had to say about people who thinks that she brings up race too much on the show.
Not my problem. This is my work. So it's not that any other black woman would do it like I do it. And by all means, I invite other black women to join this platform. I am in active recruitment of it. And I don't know if I'll be back for another season. I don't know if I'll be invited, and I don't know if I'll accept it. They were allowed to have an all-white, pretty ridiculous show for 12 years. But now I'm here. And listen, I'm not the one bringing these issues up. The only thing I do bring up a lot is black excellence.
I mean, it's hard not to bring up race on the show when you're the only black woman on the show. And if you know Ebony, that's who she is. She's a black woman. She's a attorney who shows up as her unapologetically black self at all times.
I don't think that most of them, except for Leah, even really know black people. That's the thing.
I can totally see that.
And there's one woman on the show, though. I guess she used to work for, I don't know if she used to work for Puff or somebody, but Yeah, you got.
She always sounds crazy. I know they had a conversation one time about race. She was like, "Yeah, I know black people. I worked for Puff."
Yeah, her.
And then Ebony was like, "No, you don't know black people because you work for Puff."
Well, make sure you listen to the Holding Court podcast with Ebony K Williams and Dustin Ross on the Black Effect iHeartRadio podcast network. Available everywhere you listen to podcasts.
Yes, and shout out to my boo Dustin too. I just saw him at the screening for Zola that we had. All right, now Scottie Pippen was on the Dan Le Batard show, and he was talking about Michael Jordan cheating to win bets. You know he's highly competitive. Everybody talks about that, and they say there's some instances where he allegedly cheated to win some random prop bets. Here is what Scottie Pippen had to say.
He would get the bag attendants at the airline. He would pay them so his bag would come out first, and he would win money from suckers who didn't know he was doing that.
I'm going to go against that and say Michael Jordan had his own beautiful bags. At this time, we didn't have team bags. So when you saw a bag come off and it had a jump man on it, I'm sure for the guys working at the airport, that was the first bag that they grabbed. So he had an advantage, but I don't think it was something that he intentionally did. But
yes.
I will say that he cheated on a few of his bets.
He would bet on things like whose bag would come out first.
That's hilarious.
That's a competitive person.
Airport.
That has to be exhausting being around somebody like that all the time. They're that competitive.
Yo, that is
I'm
funny.
a competitive person, but god dang, on whose bag comes out
That's
first?
hilarious.
Yeah, so imagine that you just bet on everything. Like, if I could place some bets on what's going to happen in here with you and Envy one day.
What would
And
you
I
bet?
mean, you got too much money too, because you just got money to do whatever,
money to
whenever
burn.
you dig. It's just like whatever. And by the way, some of these people really do burn their money nowadays. He's like, nah, let me just make a bet.
Is that an addiction?
Yes,
A gambling addiction? When you're betting on
Absolutely.
everything?
hell yeah. And it doesn't matter if you cheat while gambling, because it's gambling. See, it's no honor amongst thieves, right? So they're already gambling.
Gambling is
Gambling's
not
not
being a
it's
thief.
not
Yeah, you
against
can
the
do
law.
some.
You can
It's not
gamble.
against
Yeah.
the law, but it's like it can become an addiction. That's a bad habit, right? So it's like, okay, I'll cheat at it to win. Does it matter?
Yes, it does matter. It's like cheating at a casino. You can't do that.
But you would. They
right.
cheated that woman in Detroit out of
definitely
$11 million. They
Definitely
cheating,
did.
so why can't she cheat?
All right, and lastly, I just want to shout out to iHeartRadio's Black Music Month sessions presented by Carol's Daughter. We've been teaming up with Carol's Daughter, and we're featuring a performance by Justine Skye and a conversation. We did a little sit-down conversation as well on the joys, strengths, and the challenges of being a Black woman in the music industry today. So you can go ahead and check that out on iHeartRadio's YouTube and Facebook channels. That's going to be actually airing today at 7 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be on for 7 days on video on demand. So shout out to Justine Skye. She's a beautiful Black goddess. She's performing. We're doing that Q&A. I'm actually going to go to her listening session that she's having tonight for her new album. You know, Timbaland produced the album. So shout out to Justine Skye. All right, and that is your rumor report.
I'm actually really interested to hear that album because I think Justine Skye is super talented, and you know, Timbaland is one of the greatest producers of all time in any musical genre.
Yeah, well, you'll really enjoy it. I got to hear a few of the songs already, so make sure y'all tune in. I think Justin Timberlake is on a song, too.
Okay. All right. Also, shout to Revolt. We'll see you tomorrow. Everybody else, the mix is up next. Let's go.